Suddenly, both sides of the coming presidential battle found themselves besieged by the networks, the pundits, the various website wingnuts, who before they became known talking politics were making dental implants. The wailing and gnashing of living teeth about the polls and the utter disaster they portend for certain candidates. Thankfully, there is a program such as this that neither panics nor buys into the knee-jerk of so-called knowledgeable numbers. What we have in our midst at the moment that can be taken as actual and breathing discourse is more Trump tweaking of what he actually said, more fire-breathing backtalk from Hillary Clinton, and the possibility Bernie Sanders may be begging for more cash before California, faced also with a trio of issues from wars current and past. As if we have to be told yet again, an old enemy who has not disappeared, another old enemy that is being courted by the current president, and the site of a bloody battle where far too many Americans lost their lives once again on the firing line. There is no verbal firing line like this one. I'm Ed Berliner, and this is The Hardline for Monday, May 23rd, 2016. There are three things that any savvy political watcher or participant will tell you are completely overrated and in many cases completely useless when it comes to actually being elected, because in most cases the American need for bombast and bluster has far outweighed their actual value. First, the long lost art, and in many cases thankfully so, of kissing babies. Far too messy and far too unpredictable.
It's rare to get this close to President Obama.
Somebody's gonna make noise over there, guys.
And even rarer to get away with this. 8-month-old Cooper Wagner sticking his whole hand right in the president's mouth.
Despite the fact many Republicans wish that kid had succeeded in perhaps verbally disarming the president for the remainder of his stay in office, it leads us to the second overwrought and now useless portent of presidential power: stuffing those often insufferable yapping maws with anything edible.
Can't a guy or a woman eat a sandwich in peace? Well, not when they're running for president. At Primanti Brothers in Market Square, Hillary Clinton devoured a sandwich, fries and all.
She did eat. She ate. I was surprised how much she ate.
Across Market Square, the original Oyster House
Okay, I gotta eat now.
hosted McKees Rock's native John Kasich.
That's our fish sandwich.
To say absolutely nothing of the fact none of them ever seem to carry around any pocket breath mints, okay? But the third and most unimaginably useless, not worth the verbal air they are printed on indicator as to whom will win an election has to be these overwhelming, underwhelming, over-opinionated upon polls. Because everyone understands how often these numerical nabobs of negativity get it completely and utterly wrong.
I think a bunch of networks are going to have to ask their pollsters for their money back. Polls this election cycle are horrifying. And I'm really, quite frankly, I think a lot of people are going to be embarrassed tonight and are going to want refunds from the money they spent on these polls, because we're going to win Florida. And we feel very optimistic about that.
Okay, so every now and then a blind political squirrel finds the polling acorn and gets it right or wrong. But let us be honest. We are bombarded seemingly dozens of times every day with polls telling us who will win, who's getting close, who's dropping, who is the flavor of the moment, and who needs to be thinking about what they'll be doing at this time next year, because it sure won't be running the country, heaven forbid. It all means very different and very diverse reactions to polls released when there are still months of campaigning to do, and why this presidential election cycle has the possibility of breaking every numerical rule. Simply because we have never before seen this level of seething hate for the person who will have a finger on the nuclear switch, this time in 2017. This is where we begin the Monday version of The Political Animal, the only political pairing on network TV that seeks out truth, justice, the American way, bipartisanship, and the location of where to find a really good Reuben sandwich across America. First, from the nation's capital, former Democratic senatorial aide, now contributor at The Hill, Brent Budowsky. Also from deep within the bowels of the Beltway, editor-in-chief at Opportunity Lives, John Hart. Gentlemen, thanks for joining us. Everybody, please have a Reuben sandwich ready. Let us go ahead and dig in and be very, very hungry. John, I'm going to begin with you on this one first. Here's more polls again today. Look at this. First of all, we have polls telling us that when it comes down to Bernie Sanders, his margin over Donald Trump, it's wider than ever before. It's ridiculous, as a matter of fact. Then we look at other polls. This one's nice. Okay, Hillary Clinton, 46, Trump, 43, Bernie Sanders, 54. But then we've got another one. Here's one from Data Targeting, a pollster in Gainesville, Florida, that says, who would you support for president? Trump 34%, Clinton 31%, independent 21%, not sure 14%. All right, wait a minute here. Let's just do this. Let's rip these up and walk away from these. Shall we, John? Shall we, John? It's too early, isn't it? These polls are ridiculous at this stage.
Well, it is early, but I think there's a couple things that have been clear for months. The first one is that the people are angry and upset, and that's an obvious statement. But there's unprecedented volatility in the electorate, which is why you're seeing Bernie Sanders ahead of Trump. And in this, I think the most interesting poll you cited is this data targeting one that came out of Florida. And it showed, I'm a former Coburn aide, so I've been looking at these for a long time. He seriously considered looking at this race and decided not to do it as a third-party candidate. And look, you had 33% for Trump, 32% for Hillary, and then 20% for an unnamed independent. And within that, you had 91% of people under 30 wanting an independent to jump in the race. So what that tells you, and this is consistent with what Gallup has shown, is that the American people are fed up with the status quo. They want real change, not Barack Obama's change. And they're frustrated that their income has not kept up with expenses.
Okay, we get all that. Now, here's the next side of this, Brent. Is it not fair to say that what we have to remember, and NPR, I think, did a great job pointing this out, the number one rule to remember about polls, they are a snapshot of how people feel right now, today, not in a month, not in 6 weeks, not in 4 months, because we have seen everything change so drastically here. There's no reason to believe that we will have another change. It'll get worse, it'll get better, but it's not going to be what we see today.
Oh, absolutely. I think what John just said earlier, I happen to agree with. One, it is a very volatile election. And two, there is an enormous outpouring of anti-Washington, anti-establishment, anti-Republican and Democratic establishment, anti-Wall Street, anti-status quo feeling in America. What I did find interesting about the NBC News Wall Street Journal poll, not who's going to win, but it shows that Trump is now within 3 points of Hillary. But at the same time, it showed that Bernie is almost 15 points ahead of Trump. And what that tells me is the problem is not that Trump surged, it's that Hillary fell, and Bernie still represents an alternative anti-establishment no vote. But it's very, very up for grabs. I don't think we can make any predictions about anything at this point. There is a tidal wave wanting things differently, and that's the battle over how this thing is going to turn out.
Everybody breathe, nice and easy. We got a lot of time to go before this baby is birthed. Let's take our time. All right, a few minutes to go here, gentlemen. Let's get your quick ideas on a couple of issues here. First of all, let me come to you, John, on Donald Trump and his money. He has said, I don't need the big cat GOP donors at this point. I just may go out and sell a building. First of all, you can't sell a building that fast. Second of all, the amount of money that he's got to raise right now, is it not fair to say that Donald Trump's in trouble? He hasn't set up certain things in order to get money, and Hillary Clinton is way ahead of him when it comes down to fundraising.
I really don't think so, to be honest with you. I think Trump, if he's being halfway honest about his personal wealth, he could find a way to finance his campaign. And there are other billionaire donors besides the ones that are mentioned as part of the quote donor class, who could step in and fund Trump's campaign.
But a lot of them haven't come out here yet, though, John. There's a lot of big-name people sitting here who have said flat out, for instance, even Stanley Druckenmiller, who says, I'm not sure why anybody would want to give Trump money because he's worth $10 billion.
Exactly. Yeah, and he hasn't exactly given a good fundraising pitch when he's bragged about his personal wealth. But there are people like Carl Icahn, I think, who are looking at giving as much as $150 million. So, the point is, and I think, money, or rather message Trump's money. And what we've seen repeatedly in the cycle, whether it's with Jeb Bush or Marco Rubio or these so-called well-funded campaigns and PACs, they haven't performed as well as some of the others that haven't had a lot of money. And we're seeing that unfold right now, obviously, on the Democratic side.
Okay, let me get to the Democratic side here for a moment here.
We tend to make too much out of money in politics.
Okay, let me get to the left side here then, Brent, because Hillary Clinton's got a lot of money. She's got more money than anybody. But is it going to be enough to get over the fact that people don't like her, Democrats don't like her, independents don't like her? She's got a great unlikability factor here, just barely behind Donald Trump's. Is she going to be able to overcome all that with cold, hard cash?
No, cash won't do it. If she overcomes it, she's going to have to change the way she campaigns. And now I will make a couple of quick predictions. Prediction number one, Donald Trump will never self-finance his campaign. He'll never get beyond borrowing money or loaning money that he would expect to get paid back. And Donald Trump will never release his tax returns because I don't think he has the potential or capability to finance his campaign. Hillary will keep doing fundraisers with Wall Street. She will keep having an advantage, but it won't help her as much as she thinks because I don't think her problem is money. We are in a radical situation where both parties are nominating candidates who are extremely unpopular with voters. That is a very dangerous and unfortunate situation.
When it comes down to Hillary, though, Brent, is it not fair to say that she may have the money, she may have the dollars and everything behind her at this point, but when she came out over the weekend and said, I will be the nominee for my party, that is already done. In effect, there is no way that I won't be. A lot of people looking at saying, wait a minute, that's ridiculously bold. You may have the numbers at this point, but you're basically sticking a dagger at Bernie Sanders and everybody else here, just trying to be the big gun.
Well, I think it's factually correct what she said. And there is a lot of undercurrent about Bernie, even from liberals who think he should stop attacking Hillary and stop running like he has a big chance of winning, which most people, professionals, agree he doesn't.
Now, let me ask you, John, and I'm going to keep you on the left for a moment here, because Bernie Sanders, according to the U.S. Democratic Party, announcing today he will get a prominent say in writing in the platform this year. Doesn't that tell you what everybody's been saying all along, John? They want Bernie to come in. They want to cut down on all the arguments that have been going on, and this is the olive branch.
Yeah, I think that's probably true, and that should be very alarming to mainstream Democrats because, you know, look, the Democratic Party has been a quasi-socialist party for quite a while. Hillary Clinton wanted to pass a health care plan in 1994 that was to the left of what Obamacare is. So, they're full of socialists, and Bernie Sanders is pulling all the socialism front and center.
I got to stop you. I'm almost out of time. I got to get 15 seconds from Brent because he is shaking his head. You're not alarmed, are you, Brent?
The socialist is kicking Donald Trump's butt in one poll after another.
Yeah, it's not working so well in Venezuela.
Brent, aren't you alarmed that Bernie Sanders is going to set your policy now? Come on. Okay, that's all. Yeah, okay.
He's actually a small-scale capitalist. He's not a
okay, there it is.
socialist.
The all-knowing laugh from Brent Budowsky. He's going to go light up a stogie right after this one. Brent Budowsky, John Hart, gentlemen, thanks a lot for joining us. We are in the process of deciding whom will have a chance to share their opinion with us here on the Hardline at 1-877-NEWSMAX, 1-877-639-7629. Rules are simple. Be polite, be concise, be prepared, and be alert, because the world certainly needs more alerts. 1-877-NEWSMAX. Stay with us. We're coming back next. America making peace with an old enemy on the Hardline.